everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about my tick collection. I've been amassing this stuff for the last couple of years, and I'm only just now getting around to showing it to you because I was kind of waiting for the new Amazon Tick series to start, and now that I've reviewed the pilot of that, I thought now would be a really good time, so we'll go ahead and get started on it. I am working on building a collection of every tick item that has ever existed. Licensed stuff. I mean, I'll get some cool unlicensed things and custom things here and there, and I've got at least one or two things like that to show you also, but I'm mostly going for just all the random merchandise and trying to make kind of a tick museum space, and eventually I'm hoping to have maybe a cooler room and better displays and stuff. I've got some things that I'll show you in a box that I just don't have space for right now that I haven't pulled out. I've got some more posters and things that aren't up, and anyway, I don't know what the percentage is right now of like things that have the tick on them that I own. I imagine my collection is probably one of the bigger ones, I would imagine, although I don't have any of the screen used props from the Patrick Warburton show or anything like that. I know there are a couple of tick collectors that have some of the antennae and masks and parts of the bodysuits and stuff, and yeah, I'd kill for some of that, but that's not going to happen because somebody else already got that stuff. But I don't know, maybe if I save up a whole bunch of money, some of that could happen with the new show, maybe. I don't know, possible. Maybe there's an auction in my future. I don't know. Anyway, let's go ahead and get right into it. Let me mention comics first, because that stuff's not out, and let's see. Is this... No, that's not that box. Okay, so I've got a short box of all the Tick comics sitting in here somewhere, and I'm about halfway there. There's about 200 issues, and spanning from the original 12-issue run that was supposed to be 13 issues, but Ben Edlund never wrote the last one, and Man-Eating Cow and Paul the Samurai and all that stuff, to a whole lot of like free comic book day issues and hilarious one-shot holiday issues. You have the tax day special and stuff like that. There's a couple of Halloween ones. I think the Tick has done. There's a Valentine's Day, or maybe even a couple of those. The Tick really likes his holidays, apparently. So I have, like I said, about half of those. But let's go and start with the action figures. So I have every Tick action figure in package and all the 90s cartoon stuff. And I have most of everything else, but there are a couple of exceptions. I'm missing one right now, just because I was kind of waiting to get a slightly better deal on one. I'm missing the Patrick Warburton of the live-action Tick line. So ironically, I have the other three, but I don't have the Tick. But I'll get that at some point. These were ridiculously cheap when I found them, so I'm just waiting for a cool deal on that one. I'll get it soon. I don't have the Shocker Toys one. I wish I'd bought that when that came out. That was a limited run, and it's pretty expensive now. I think those run around $100, maybe less. I'm not sure. But there's the main one, and then there's the Mucus Tick variant. I don't have either of those. But beyond that, like I said, with the 90s stuff, I have everything. So we'll just run and a couple things twice, and I'll show you why that is in a little bit. We'll just run through this stuff real quick. Here's all the wacky wind-ups. And then there are a couple of lines of the main, 4.5 inch or the 6 inch figures. They only did 2 waves of these, and unfortunately they quit before they had a chance to put out a chair face, so there is no 6 inch chair face, which is preposterous. There is a tiny 2.5 inch chair face here, and I guess he didn't get a wacky wind-up either. One thing that's weird about the figures is that they put out a guy, they put out a character named Dynamole. I don't know who that is. He probably shows up in the background of one episode and I don't remember it, or maybe he's in a comic and I forget about that, but I forget where, if that's the case. But clearly there was an intention of putting out more lines than they did, because Dynamole is everywhere, and I don't know what he is. Like for all these lines, there's a Dynamole. There's a 2.5-inch Dynamole. There's the 6-inch Dynamole. He's over here. This bag has 3 characters on it: the Tick, Arthur, and freaking Dynamole. Hilarious. He has an amusing name. I don't know what he is. I think it's hilarious and sad that there are other characters that we never got that showed up a lot, but we got Dynamole all over the place. There's not a Breadmaster figure. That's a crying shame. He's one of my favorites. There's not a there's not a Evil Midnight Bomber what bombs at midnight. That would have been great. We don't have a Chrome Dome figure. But if you love Dynamole, you can get him like lots of times. Anyway, so Bandai made these figures, and they're really good figures. Obviously, Bandai knows what they're doing. They've been responsible for Power Rangers going all the way back, and so we were fortunate to get really solid, well-made posable Tick figures, and they don't have as many points of articulation as they would probably have now. They are very much 90s toys, but they're fun to play with, and when you're a kid. And they're and it's just nice that we got bigger ones, that we got the 6-inch scale for these. You've also got, I'll mention a couple of these things. Here's Crusading Chameleon. Crusading Chameleon was called the Caped Chameleon in the pilot, and later on all of a sudden his name changed. I don't know why, but he started as the Cape Chameleon, and then he was the Crusading Chameleon, and I guess they made that figure. Was this a second wave thing? Yeah, this is Series 2. If this had been Series 1, guarantee you would have been called the Caped Chameleon. So, as I mentioned, Bandai made these, but there's another probably distributor called Irwin, and so some of these say Bandai on them, and some of them say Irwin. And these were the toys that were put out in Canada. So that is a Canadian company. And one of the cool things I've got is the Irwin version of the talking Tick, of the big 10-inch talking Tick. So that's this guy. I had him at a package already before I bought. And by the way, all the stuff in package I bought from one collection. So there's a guy that had all this that put it on eBay, and I got a really good deal on this stuff. So some of the stuff I've had to piece out, but the figures, I bought nearly all of them all at the same time. I got really lucky on that. And he, I guess, either lived in Canada or went to Canada and got a lot of this stuff. And so he had the Irwin package Tick, and I want to at some point get the Bandai one also. There's no difference between the actual figures, and when you look at each of the packages between Irwin and Bandai, there's no difference, except with this. And the big difference is all of the Tick's lines are written in French, also with the English. And I totally wish that he also spoke in French, especially because there's an episode of the show where he does that, where he gets turned into a two-headed bird that speaks high school French. And so you get Je suis le Tick on the back, or just the Tick. I wish that said le Tick. That'd be fantastic. But that's hilarious because there's an episode where he actually says that. But yeah, I wish this figure spoke in French. But anyway, I don't know how rare that is compared to the other one, but it's really cool to not only have this in package, but also the one that's got all the French words written there. So, like I said, I've got some duplicates because I also have some of the Irwin versions. You'll notice that this figure is discolored. When there was a defect with these where, and I imagine it has something to do with the difference between the plastics, where this is clearly a different kind of plastic than the arms and the head and the legs. And if you look these up on eBay or you find them in stores, used stores, you always see these discolored after 23, 25 years now. So I have done everything I can to keep this guy out of sunlight, because I've also seen them in boxes discolored like that too. So another thing that's exciting about this is that his color is right, because that's kind of unusual, and you can even kind of tell that with the plastics being so different. I don't know if this is interesting to anybody but me, but the plastics being different, there's a slight difference between the blues already, but if you take this out and you leave it in sunlight, it's going to start to turn green, and we don't want that because he's not mucus tick, he's just the tick. Although if if all the plastic was the same as this, it would all turn green, and then you could just say that it was a mucus tick variant. See, this is mucus tick, and he's green on purpose. So, other figure lines. So you have the two main series, and then you have the, where are they? The TikTokers. There they are. So you got natural tick. I think that's so funny. The other ones have clothes. So that's natural tick. There's a running gag with the tick that he thinks that he's not wearing a costume, but that he was born that way. So for the tick, he's naked, and I think it's fantastic that they called that natural tick. That is hilarious. And then the tick wearing the I Dig Dinosaur Neil shirt. Whoever made these toys clearly liked and got this show, because it's really neat, the different the different costumes and things that you got. And then the wonderful I Love Wheat shirt. Arthur, it was sure nice of your sister to take us to Wheatland. That's from the Tick vs. Protoclown. And then Tourist Tick, that would have been from Pineapple Pocopo, when he was riding on a surfboard and literally jumping sharks. And he called himself Nick Soap Dish. Nick Soap Dish. Oh, that sounds made up to me. These don't talk anymore, unfortunately. You press the try me button and they don't do anything because, they've been in these packages forever. So eventually, I'd like to get these again and try to open them up and see if I can replace the batteries and actually get them to talk. Because I've never actually heard these, talking before. But that's pretty much the figures. And then again, over here, I've got all the little ones, the 2.5 inchers. I had a lot of these when I was a kid out of package. Bought them up again with this collection. And then I've got some of the bendables, but not all of them. There's a box that has... It's 4 or 5 characters that has the rest of the bendables, and I'll get that eventually. It's cheap, it's easy to get, I just haven't done that yet. This is the rare gold bendable one. There was, let's see, there were 2,500 made of these, and I have number 661. And then this is the only way we got a Terror. That's another figure that there is not... Another character, I'm looking around to make sure I'm right about that, yeah, that we didn't get a figure of. Once again, okay, here's a couple other things that are kind of weird with characters that we got versus characters we didn't. And at least this is a character that showed up a couple times, but really, Dean? So you got you got Chairface's henchman who has a screw for a head. He doesn't talk. I always thought that was funny, by the way, because, Chairface Chippendale has a chair for a head, and you have no idea how he was able to talk, but then this guy doesn't talk, and you think, oh, well, yes, of course, he's got a screw for a head. But, you can have a chair and talk. There was a couple of figures of him, but not of Breadmaster, and not of the Terror, and not of Toonla, not of This Earth, and not of fake Joseph Stalin. I don't know if they would have made fake Joseph Stalin, but... that would have been awesome, and that totally should have been thumbs up for evil. Anyway, okay, so that's pretty much it with the figures. Obviously, my favorite is Thrakkerzog, because I love Thrakkerzog. I need to get one of these at some point out of package, just so that I can actually connect the tongue up. I may at some point collect all the figures also out of package, just to have them that way and display them someplace else when I finally get more space. And I'd like to build a shelf for all this stuff that's not really hangable. Okay, so last thing with figures, because this is not a figure, but this is about figures. This is one of the coolest things I own, and I can't find another one of these anywhere. I bought this on eBay, and I was really fortunate that I just happened to be looking for Tick stuff when this landed there. This is a catalog that retailers could use to decide, or that was sent to retailers to try to entice them to carry the Tick merchandise. And there are some things in here that never actually got put out. So you have these little play sets. Let's see if we can get in here. So you have Arthur's apartment, this little play set. And then you have Dinosaur Neil, and these never happened. These didn't exist. And also, you got the City Streets playset. The really cool one that is just really super sad that it never came out, and that I see as the holy grail. Like, if there's a prototype of this, and I ever found it, I would pay an exorbitant sum in order to get this. This is the Rooftop Fortress playset. And as I said, somebody really knew this show and knew what they were doing, because there's a bunch of references to stuff that actually were in episodes with this playset. So you've got a lot of stuff from the Tick vs. Arthur's bank account. You have the crime busting tower, you have the secret message cannon, and you have the Tick signal. And then when the Tick like breaks through the roof in order to go in and out of Arthur's apartment, which is hilarious. But the best reference is that from that, and this gag is also the Patrick Warburton show, from the scene where Arthur is showing the Tick his apartment for the first time, the couch turns into a bed. Fantastic. Like I said, it's really sad that this didn't exist. This is the only reference to this playset I can find anywhere on the internet. And if anybody else has any more information on this, let me know. I have searched this out, trying to see if there's any other mention of it anywhere, and the only thing I've ever found is an old link to the eBay auction where I bought this. And I'm sure there's some more of these somewhere, but I've never even found another one of these. So at least right now, this is one of the cooler, rarer things that I have. But again, I suspect that there are more of these floating around someplace. So anyway, that is one of my favorite things. And then, I'll put that up in a bit. This is something that somebody cut out of a magazine. This is a announcement of the Tick's birth that was, and I forget even what magazine this was in, but that Ben Edlin put together. He was just so proud of getting the Tick on TV, this really super underground thing that began in a newsletter for a comic book retailer, New England Comics. A lot of people don't know this because they think of New England as just the publisher that published the Tick, but they're not a publisher first, they're a retailer first. And so taking a thing from a newsletter that they loved, that then went to an underground comic series, going all the way to, in less than a decade, a mainstream cartoon show on Fox Kids that lasted for 3 years, is an absolute astounding achievement. It kind of has that in common with Ninja Turtles. So I just love this. Born September 10th, 1994, height 84 inches, weight 400 pounds, 7 ounces. He broke the mold, and we've got the Tick holding a TV as a baby that was just born. I think that's really cool. Other stuff. So I'll mention this balloon and some other party stuff. If you go to New England Comics, to their website, they have a whole bunch of discounted Tick merchandise that they just never got rid of. And you can actually, if you're interested in the Tick, you can actually begin to amass your own Tick collection for very little money. A lot of the stuff that I got, besides the action figures and stuff, and some of these weird, rarer things, like, you know, I spent $20 to get these Band-Aids. Like, there's a few things that I admittedly spent too much money on, but you can actually start your own Tick collection for very little money. There a lot of this stuff I got for kind of like dirt cheap yard sale prices. That's part of the reason that I haven't bought the Tick from this line yet, because they had these for like $3 or $4 a piece, and when you look those up on eBay, they're always $20, $30 each. But so there's a whole set of party supplies, and I didn't realize just how much this party supply stuff existed, that you can get there for like $10. I'm gonna buy a second set at some point and have a Tick party for my kid. But we have the balloon, and then when you look at my table, my display table over here, you have this tablecloth, and then there's a bunch more stuff in this box. We have party favors and bags and cups, and I just didn't know that all this stuff existed. Plates. and then you have the centerpiece, and I have another centerpiece, and this is the only thing I have that's signed by Ben Edlund himself. This came also in that collection of all the figures that I bought. I got all these posters also from New England Comics, and I love them because so many of them are comic book things, and it was neat that they made so many comic book posters. You notice the pink Thacker song. A lot of people don't realize that in the comics he was pink because, of course, the comics were in black and white, but there's a couple covers that has him on there in there. And he's pink also in the video game, which is odd because the video game is based primarily on the cartoon show, but it's also got some of the comic book stuff in it also. I want to mention the steel box too. I forgot about this when we were talking about action figures. This was on screen for all of 30 seconds in the... I keep calling it the pilot. I actually don't think it aired first, but in the episode that brought the Tick versus the Idea Men, that brings the Tick to the city in the first place where he meets Arthur, and this thing is neat. This was how the Tick tried to prove that he was nigh invulnerable, and so he had this giant torture machine that he built. How bizarre is it that this came out, but they didn't go ahead and build the thing that I showed you in here. So the Arthur's apartment playset, they didn't put out, but this on screen, 30 seconds. This came out. I also have a cool custom version of that with this zombie Tick. This is one of the first things I bought, and I think it's really cool. So somebody took that I Dig Dinosaur Neil Tick, and I suspect they went with that because it had a hollow inside, so you take out the voice box, and suddenly you have a hollow inside, and that makes it a lot easier to put all the guts and stuff in. And then they took the steel box and painted it gray and made it all super creepy and scary, and did this horror Tick zombie figure with skeleton pieces. I got a whole bag of skeleton pieces when I bought that. That was really cool. Then here's the spoons. You gotta have those, right? You gotta have, any Tick collection is not gonna be complete without collector spoons. And it's neat that those came out. There are 3 of them, I think. I didn't even know about the Arthur one until I found that on New England's website. Once again, they're a treasure trove. There's a bunch of stuff there that I didn't even know about. But I can't find the American made anywhere. So again, if anybody knows about one, let me know, because I'm after that. There are, I think, 3 of these watches. And these are really expensive when you find them online. I'm trying to remember the other 2. I think there's one that's like, is it a space thing? I forget. But there's a couple other Tick watches. And I know I forget, because this is the Christmas one. I can't remember now. But anyway, but the other, whenever I find them, they're like $120, $130. And no, more than that, like 180 something. And I bought this at Acme Comics in Iowa when we went on our road trip for like $20. And that was a neat find. And like I said, this kind of all started with this watch. A bunch of other, silly stuff that you saw with a lot of cartoon shows in the 90s. You've got your bubble bath bottle and stuff like that. I'm getting the VHS tapes. Obviously, they didn't put the whole show out. There's just a couple of these. I showed you my inordinately expensive Band-Aids. I've got both the trading card sets. There's the comic one, and then there's the Fox Kids one. Those I collected growing up. This I bought on eBay before I started buying all this stuff up. This is weird. Here is, and I haven't listened to this, but I guess they put these out sometimes for new shows. It says Musings from Superheroes in the Never-Ending Battle to Defend Justice. It's a soundbite CD. So this came out before, and like, I don't know where they would have sent these, or if it just went to the retailers. I have no idea what this was for, but it's just quotes from that show before the show came out. It's really a strange thing. There is a talking Tick. There's like a plush talking Tick from that show that I don't have. It is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. And I haven't bought one yet because I can't find one with a box that's not damaged. And this stuff, some of you guys know this about me, but I tend to take figures out of the package. With the Tick stuff, I'm trying to get everything in as immaculate shape as humanly possible. But yeah, so you have all the pop-ups from the Fox card set. You've got pins and buttons. These buttons are cool. This is the package that you get, and they still do this when you sign up for the official Tick fan club. I forget what year this one's from. They're all slightly different. I don't know if I'm going to go as far as to get one for every. I don't think I'm going to do that, but I have one token one, and this is what you get when you sign up for the fan club. You get the certificate of oneness. And by the way, this is called the Mystic Order of, I forget what it is. It's a thing that comes from the first comic run. It will come to me eventually. I haven't looked at this in a while, actually. Okay, so this is great. So you get the official MOAV Implement of Menace, which is just a straw, because the Tick likes to prove that he, or likes to tell people that he can suck blood, even though he doesn't actually suck blood. You get a numbered spoon. They just buy plastic spoons and number them. It's fantastic. And then, oh, that's what it is. That's right. The Mystic Order of Arachnid Vigilance. And of course, you can be a card-carrying member of that, of course. And then the handbook is hilarious. I might talk about this at some point and show this off because it's really funny. And then there's a decoder wheel. This is very 80s, and I love that they still put this stuff out. You get stuff in here that, like, if it was a Tick cereal, it's like what the prize would be, you know, in the Tick cereal. I have all of the restaurant toys. They're all in this box, and I'll show you some of those. They're all in package, so, you know, they're not the easiest things to look at. But I also have, yeah, I went this far. I also have the bags from the 3 restaurants. Here's the Taco Bell one, the Jack in the Box one, and then where's my other one? Oh, there it is. And then the Carl's Jr. one and Hardee's. So yeah, the Tick was around long enough and popular enough that 3 different restaurant chains bid in order to get him as their toys for that month, which is really cool. So there's a lot of this stuff. And there's a couple of characters that only existed in restaurant toy form for toys. Oh yeah, a couple of prose books. This one's cool. I might do a video on this at some point. This was a kind of a guidebook to the cartoon show, and there's a lot of fun stuff in here. It's nice that this came out late enough that it includes stuff from all 3 seasons, and I think it was put out maybe right after the show was done or just before it was done. If Uncle Creamy is ever mentioned in here, then it would have to be at the end, because that was the last episode. The Tick versus Education. But yeah, so here's all the restaurant toys. I won't go through these, but here's proof that I have them. Oh, did I show you the Quaker Oat Life box? That was a thing that I found an image of once on a Google image search and never thought I'd actually find one, and then somebody put it up on eBay. So I bought it. What's in this poster tube? Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so this is a poster for the video game. And I have this game on Super Nintendo. I will at some point, because like I said, I'm trying to get everything in package and in perfect shape. I'll at some point get both the Sega game and the Super Nintendo game. I mean, they're the same game, just with, you know, slight variations, you know, in package. And they're not super expensive when you find them, so that won't be a big deal, but I'll get those. That's kind of all the major stuff I wanted to talk about. There's just kind of a rundown on my Tick collection, and down the road I might do a second video if I get a lot more cool Tick stuff. Really interested to see if the new series gets merchandise, if it gets picked up after the pilot, and obviously I'll review that stuff if and when it comes out. And I'm wanting to do, I'm kicking around doing another Tick month at some point, and reviewing some more comics, because like I said, I have a bunch of stuff that I've never talked about and that I haven't read now, because we bought a bunch of Tick issues on the road trip for, no, that wasn't the documentary trip, that was last year when Brandon and I went to Arkansas for 64 Galore. So anyway, thanks thanks a lot for watching. Sure appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed seeing the tick collection, and I'll see you again down the road for more tick stuff. I'm Captain Logan. Thanks again for watching.